What we're now seeing in South Africa is systemic failure in the water services sector.
Categorically, I think we're facing a crisis. No, we're not facing a crisis. I think we are in a crisis.
Water is the essential and critical resource for the economy, for social life, for health.
Water is life. It's an expression we all know, underscoring the essence of water in sustaining every form of life on Earth. But how often do you stop to think about the source of the water that you drink, cook with, and bathe in? Probably only when you turn on the tap and nothing comes out. This unsettling scenario is becoming all too common for many South Africans. At first, it may seem like a mere inconvenience, but if you trace the water's journey backward from your tap, what story does it tell about South Africa's water security? I'm Marita Fall, an environmental lawyer with a decade of experience in environmental management. As AfriForum's advisor for environmental affairs, I have a front row seat to the escalating water challenges across our country. Professor Anthony Turton is a specialist in the management of water as a strategic resource. What's your opinion on where we are considering the water situation?
South Africa has become a failed state, and you can measure it by whatever objective measurement you choose to adopt. And I define state failure as the inability of an organ of government to convert inputs coming from its operational environment into adequately resourced, appropriate solutions. In other words, the conversion of signals, data, blue drop, green drop, that tells you something's happening. How do you interpret that? How do you convert that into an adequately resourced response that's going to enable you to stop the problem that you are facing?
The Department of Water and Sanitation's National Blue and Green Drop Certification Program is an assessment of South Africa's drinking water and wastewater quality management. The Blue Drop audit is a diagnostic analysis of water supply systems across the country, covering aspects such as technical characteristics, operational, environmental and financial management, and quality compliance. Similarly, the Green Drop audit does the same in terms of wastewater treatments. Ms. Aisha Lahir is a professionally registered environmental scientist with 13 years experience in all aspects of water and wastewater treatment. She is a lead inspector for the Blue, Green and No Drop certification programs of the Department of Water and Sanitation and currently a director of AHL Water.
When the audits were cancelled by the government, I think it's really saw a decline. And the reason why I'm saying that is that when the audits resumed now again in the last 2 years, the results were such a big difference. From 80% of the country that had safe drinking water, we ended up with less than 50% of the supply systems with safe drinking water.
Dr. Marlene van der Merwe Botha holds a doctorate in environmental and industrial bacteriology. She is a water and wastewater treatment specialist with experience in both the private and public sectors. What is our current situation?
We need to address the root causes. What are the root causes? There's no consequence for not performing. There's no consequence for not doing your job in a municipality. Municipal managers who's already failed in 2013 to ensure high quality effluent drinking water to their communities, they are still sitting there. No consequences. It's criminal what is happening at the moment because there's no consequence. If you do your job or if you don't do it, it doesn't matter.
The Water Research Commission was established in 1971 to promote water research in South Africa. The Commission funds and facilitates research in water-related innovation and disseminates such knowledge for the advancement of national water security.
I think the fact that we have got this three-tier system makes it a bit complex to manage. And then when you go to the water boards, you find that some of them are very good. For example, Randwater, it's one of the good water boards, not only in South Africa, but in Africa, and very competitive as well as worldwide. or globally, then some of them are struggling, and it's because of obviously the aged infrastructure. We also take into consideration the fact that previously or historically, there are people that did not have access to water, and then there are people that have access. So that connectivity and that footprint, I believe it's where the problem starts. So I think that whole system is really where the challenge is. We have found that there's been a lot of new infrastructure that's laid, making about more than 85% of our communities and people of South Africa have access to water.
I think it's a behavior issue that needs to change in South Africa. And I think we've reached that stage where this manifestation of all these elements put us in the storm.
South Africa falls among the 30 driest countries. We have got the responsibility to make sure that, we use our water resources in a sustainable manner.
So sanitation, when we see it, we typically speak about the polluted rivers, the poorly functioning wastewater treatment plants. But what we're not seeing is what I call the spatial and the social aspects that are not being spoken about, which is migration of people, urbanization.
Dr. Heidi Snyman is a wastewater and effluent treatment specialist with a PhD in microbiology. She's the former director for water-centered knowledge at the Water Research Commission and the current president of the Water Institute of Southern Africa.
Their problems are vandalism. What is that? That's poverty and unemployment. Their problems are theft. What is that? Poverty, unemployment. Their problems were electricity failures, power failures. You cannot run a plant, a wastewater treatment plant, or for that matter, a drinking water plant without electricity.
In the water sector, particularly the water services sector, there's a thing called an assurance of supply. So the assurance of supply, let's unpack that quickly because it's the breakdown of the assurance of supply that we're seeing. So the assurance of supply comes to a number, and that number is 98%. So the design for the systems is to develop a 98% assurance of supply. That means that you can have 2 breakdowns in 100 years, or 1 breakdown in 50 years. Assurance of supply is a guarantee of 6 things. So let's quickly unpack those things. It's a guarantee of a given volume of water, at a given quality, at a given pressure, at a given price, at a given time, and at a given place. Those are the 6 elements of the assurance of supply. And every one of those things together must give a 98% guarantee that you're going to get that assurance of supply. Why is this important? It's important because at the end of the day, water is the foundation of the national economy. Water is an economic enabler. In fact, if you look at any of your objective metrics that are used anywhere in the world as an indicator of poverty, one of the indicators of poverty is access to reliable water.
For me, 90% of the time, the root cause is management. It's that they lack the support of management to be able to do the work. There's sometimes where you find people on site don't give, but it always stems from the management issues.
Mr. Fred van Zyl is a water quality and water services management specialist with more than 50 years experience in the water sector.
Water is a business. It's a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year service. Every single day. Every single day. 24 hours. It's an industry. The water must meet this criteria. If not, it's a crisis. What is a crisis? A time of danger, loss of confidence, a state of confusion and anxiety, a state of serious problems, a time when problems must be solved, a time when solutions must be found.
You cannot say that more than half our sewage works are not fully functional, is in crisis mode. 64% is in critical or poor performance status. Remember, to say something is in critical care means everything has failed. The institution has failed, the infrastructure has failed, the processes and systems has failed, and there's no money to fix it. It means we failed.
And what we're now seeing across the board in South Africa is systemic failure in the water services sector, systemic failure in the water resource management sector. The water resource management is a little bit less behind the curve than the water services. The biggest failure, without any question of doubt, is the water services sector.
It's about doing the right things. And I think we in South Africa have got the right policies in place. National Water Services Act, we've got obviously with your PFMAs and other regulations that are in place to be able to manage the water. But do we have the right skills?
You know, the last crisis we had around water was in the 60s. What we are, according to me, now we are in a storm that is having a cocktail of problems that's manifested by poor governance, mismanagement, by the lack of skill, capacity and competency, and a shortage of finances. But, you know, to kind of alleviate, you know, and make it a little bit more, we have a lot of legacy issues as well. And I think we've reached that stage where this manifestation of all these elements put us in the storm.
And I've always refused to say we have a crisis, because when we label it a crisis, I believe it can paralyze a lot of us into doing nothing and just putting our hands up and saying what needs to happen. I believe, let's say that things are obviously not looking good, but we have to then manage better. We have to put into place a whole lot of mechanisms to make sure that we change the situation, but also we adapt.
Water is the essential and critical resource for the economy, for social life, for health, for a safe environment, of the health environment, for the security environment, national environment. It's the critical resource. We call it the strategic resource. Now, if we say that and we claim it's the one, then so far we've got and say, wow, it's so serious, we claim it as a human right, internationally and South Africa. And then you say, oh, it's so serious, it's a human right, let's put it in the Constitution. And we make it an obligation. It must be looked after. We established a dedicated department to look after this. We gave formal directives to local governments, so you've got obligation to look after this.
Unfortunately, you cannot solve the water problems with just solving the water problems. You cannot solve water without solving poverty, unemployment, and the electricity problem.
It's an institutional failure. It's not that we don't have water. It's the fact that those institutions that are established to get the input signals coming out of the operating environment, to get back to what I said just now, and convert that into an adequately resourced action plan. That over the next 5 years we'll do this, the next 10 years we'll do that. This is the plan, this is the budget, these are the people we need, this is how we're going to do it. Okay, all of that's gone. So you'll always hear the constant excuse, oh, it's climate change, or it's the consumer that's not playing ball, they're using too much, or it is somebody else's responsibility, or, okay, another one, oh, there's not enough qualified people, or there's not enough money. But if you look at the budgets, there's a massive budget, but the budget has been misallocated for the wrong reasons. So in other words, these are just excuses tap dancing on the fact that the National Water Act and the Water Services Act have both failed. So at legislative level, at the level of legislation, you have two failed instruments of water management. And until such time as we can deal with that fundamental issue, you can't actually fix the problem.
If we don't change things now, we won't be able to save the plants that are remaining and functioning, and we won't be able to turn back the tide. So yes, we are facing a crisis, not only with safe drinking water, but it's definitely coupled also to reliability of supply.
Our DNA in South Africa was built around innovation, and science. And I think we need to bring back innovative solutions in dealing with our challenges.
We need to go into smart management. We have to be smarter. But then I found out that we can't move into smart because we don't even do the basic things right. How long can we extend our life? Many years. But then we say we have to be more smarter in terms of optimizing it in more efficiency, more technology.
We know where we are. We measure. That's the first thing. We know where we are. We can measure it. Now we can say, okay, if this is the situation, what needs to be done? So the Minister of Water and Sanitation had a water summit with the municipalities in January, and I can tell you he's spot on. He is spot on, and I take my hat off to him for releasing the results, which doesn't look so good, hey? He's spot on in identifying the problems, and he's even spot on in saying these are the mitigation measures or the corrective measures we need to take to improve the situation, to turn around the situation.
How do you try and transfer knowledge and information to communities so that they can take on basic operations, for example, and run some of their systems? How do they then understand the water, understand how to use water, and then make more productive decision-making around water? So you can move from just simply moving from drinking water to how do I use this water to start a business? How do I use this water to do agriculture in a smart way, especially in the very dry and especially drought-ridden areas of South Africa?
You have to start assessing it like a doctor. Say, why is this cancer there? Doesn't help you put in plasters or say give them medicine and feel better, right? So we looked at it, and 90% when we had workshops, the guy said, it's infrastructure. It's our infrastructure.
We need to start re-looking at that strategy to say, you know what, do we fix the problem downstream or do we fix the problem upstream? So there's lots of structural issues that need to happen, and we are pushing this agenda of decentralized, appropriate, kind of thing, so we can manage and not make it too complex that once a system fails at a centralized level, everything fails.
I think collaboration. We're all pulling in different directions at the moment. And again, I'm saying that we're seeing green shoots where government is taking water seriously. But if we don't all collaborate, we all do our part, well, we're not going to solve this.
What I like particularly is that members of the public are becoming active. And when you get the grass level roots movement from the bottom up, where you push, where the residents fight against this, where they complain about water quality, where they complain about lack of water, and they put pressure via the media, via the mass action, whatever, on the councillors, then we will get things moving. And we need to do that. We need to get people galvanized and support, stand together. We have the ability to do it. We just need to be given the permission to do it.
What's your outlook for the future? Are you confident that we're dealing with it in the right way?
We have a connectivity of network at the WRC with the international and the global community of scientists, of engineers, of desalination technology specialists that we have put together as we call them the advisory body. And that advisory body is working hand in glove with the city to make sure that when the project is finally set in motion, there's been training and development, there's proper technology, and there'll be people that know how to use it. But in the main, we have to be hopeful for our motherland, and say that things should turn around. And how do we partner together with government and ourselves as the private sector to make sure that the people get? So we need to really rethink how we do business. It's not business as usual, profit at all costs. It has to be sustainable. It has to also have the human benefit at heart. Otherwise, we are all just going our own separate ways and really messing up the future for future generations.
We will have no choice to start to draw in private sector liquidity, expertise, money, to to work with government departments, to fix up, to repair, to operate, etc. And I think that's part of the future, not only for Eskom but also for our municipal and government departments, is to work more closely with private sector and make use of what they have to offer.
We have amazing experience and expertise within the water sector. Engineers, scientists, technologists, technicians, technologies as well, that can address all of these issues. So it's not an issue of we cannot do it and we need somebody else to come and help us to do it. We have the ability to do it. We just need to be given the permission to do it.
The water sector has got an opportunity to turn things around. But we need to be honest amongst ourselves that somewhere, somehow, we dropped the ball. But it is the responsibility of everyone, government, private sector, NGOs, academic institutions, to make sure that, we come up with practical strategic interventions.
And by all indications, the assurance of supply is unlikely to be returned in the immediate, let's call it the medium-term future. Of course, it can be returned to some semblance of stability, but in the medium term, let's say the next 10 years, the next decade, I cannot see that assurance of supply can be restored in that period of time.
It's never too late. I think we're a country of resilient people, and we can definitely change things.
When you work with communities in that way, and when they understand water management and understand the value that it can bring to their lives, they then step forward and they're able to even put money together and do basic operations and maintenance, and thereby allow themselves to grow and improve their quality of life going forward, improve their sort of agricultural outputs, include some of their business supply chain processes. That then allows us to then work with municipalities, bringing them on board as well as a partner, and with the universities. The universities bring the knowledge, the advice, how to do things more effectively. And we find that with this sort of triple helix concept of working together, we're able to move people forward in the right sort of direction towards water management, maybe better governance, also the kind of community-based organization, activism around their needs, their rights, and the productive use of water.
Short answer is, I think the future is even gloomer. I think if there's a word for a deeper crisis than we have at the moment, that is the future of small towns in South Africa. And I'm sorry to have to put it so bluntly, being such a positive person and always looking for the high points. Where we digress slowly for many, many years, the decline is very fast at the moment. And I don't know, we're going to hit rock bottom very, very soon.
There are serious financial, environmental and health impacts. So there's urgency. We need to get an action going right now. Right now. That's the urgency.
If we don't change things now, we won't be able to save the plants that are remaining and functioning, and we won't be able to turn back the tide. So yes, we are facing a crisis, not only with safe drinking water, but it's definitely coupled also to reliability of supply.
I mean, it sounds very pessimistic, but I'm here to identify problems, because problems are your friends. Problems are good things because you can solve them. So we have a dilemma now. And our role is to convert that dilemma into a series of problems. Because problems are good things, because every problem is technically soluble.
I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm the proud South African, very proud to be here. I want my children to be happy here. So I refuse to accept that this is doomsday. As South Africans, we've shown our resilience with so many other things. We can do this as well.
From our observations as a civil rights watchdog, to the everyday experiences of countless individuals, and as echoed by some of South Africa's top water management specialists, the facts are clear. Our future water security is in a precarious situation. We are a nation on the brink of a water crisis. But amidst the gravity of these findings, the first step to solving any problem is recognizing that there is one. Solving our water crisis will be no different. We have the expertise, we understand the root causes, and we have the solutions. The journey ahead is daunting, but AfriForum believes that communities have a key role to play with government and individuals in securing our water future. Our collaborative efforts to protect and preserve South Africa's water resources will have a significant impact if we act now.